I'm not abandoning my army.
You're the commander, not a damn infantryman. Those fuckers are about to swamp us.
We can hold them off.
I had to do it. Glorious morning, Chop.
Glorious morning, Pepito. It's objectively good. It's still making me laugh. It's quality. It's high quality.
I'll
Totally
drop
forgot
it.
about Whack.
I'll drop it in the chat. But I think Kevin actually has his whole thread of all his past ones, which I think are, amazing. Some of the ones that he did, like yearly review stuff, kind of were my intro to crypto in a way, and that's how I got to know Intern on Twitter. So I had to steal it from him for this quick intro. But no, glorious morning, Chop. You're dialing in from Singapore and a token. How's it going over there?
Yeah, it's crazy. It is so incredibly busy here in Singapore. It's unbelievable. I was at the conference today, and like a 5-level conference center. Tried to walk around as much as I could, and I'm not sure how many tickets they sold, but the whole place was full. It was absolutely packed. It was nuts. And actually, same goes for Korea last week. People like their crypto, and it seems to be a lot of retail participants. It's nuts, incredible.
It's October in the end.
Yeah.
It's October, but no, it looks fun, and no, a bunch of cool things happening. It seems, but no, back with episode number 23. Very, very happy to have Kevin, intern from Monad, this week on. Anything we should just quickly shill before I bring Kevin on?
What have we got? What have we?
I guess
our Blue Ocean partnership, which has been pretty huge over the past 7 days. How long ago was that? It's thing for me at the moment. It was a couple of days ago now, wasn't it?
Was last week, yeah, last Thursday,
Last week.
after the Pith Pro announcement that happened on that Wednesday as well. I guess there was a little Pith mentioned at the SEC meeting yesterday.
Very nice.
And I think Plank dropped today a great September recap, Pithtember. So if you have anything you want to catch up on in September, go check her account. I think it's Up Hey Captain or something like this. But another banging video. So you can catch up there.
I've been pronouncing it Opie Captain, but I don't know how. Yeah, I'm actually not sure if that's right or not.
HOPHEY Captain, something like this. Do your research. Find her account. She's got a cute little purple dinosaur on as a PFP. But community wins again. Not anything else. I'm just gonna get Kevin on there so he doesn't run away before. GM, good morning.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, very well.
Loud and clear, Kevin. Loud and clear.
Nice. How are we doing today?
We're doing well. We're doing very well. Thank you for taking the time and jumping on. Should be a fun one. And yeah, excited to hear about the mainnet Monad date.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like we're getting close now. Pith is going to play an enormous role on mainnet on day one, right straight out of the gate. So excited to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, basically.
No, but cool. Let's start it easy, I guess. Can you tell us just a bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into crypto?
Yeah, I initially got into crypto in 2017. I studied physics in school. I was like just coming out of my freshman year and there were some crazy physics kids in my class who were just like trading shit coins. And they're like, I had just learned about investing in stocks. So I was like 18, 19 at the time. I'm like, oh, you can get like 30% returns. That sounds great. And this kid's like, yeah, I got 10,000% return in 2 days. And I was like, what is happening? Right. I have to look into this. Then I fell down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and was kind of pilled ever since then. Like I said, I studied physics. There's not a lot you're going to do with physics after you graduate. So once I learned about crypto, I was pretty dead set on working in this space. Like really, once I learned what the core value prop of Bitcoin was, and then learned about smart contracts, I'm like, all right, I want to go and work in this field for sure. So stayed true to that. 3 years later, graduate, and I start interning at CMS Holdings. CMS, for anyone who doesn't know, is a prop shop. They do a lot of liquid trading and venture investing. So I worked on the venture investing team there for just under 3 years. Love the time there. It was a lot of fun, an awesome team. Never wanted to leave. I think I saw over 1,000 pitches over my time at CMS. Monad was one that stood out to me, and I ended up joining the team towards like the end of 2022. And I've just been working on that since then, right? Doing anything as far as marketing, community building, fundraising, ecosystem development, launching testnet, launching mainnet, shit posting, just whatever the team needs. So it's been an awesome ride so far.
What kind of stuff were you doing for CMS, Kevin, as an intern position? I'm curious to know, because I think a lot of people just assume interns are basically just shitpost on Twitter and don't do a whole lot else, but I'm sure it involved a whole lot more than that.
Yeah, so funny story. I was truly an intern at CMS, and this is in 2020. I started the CMS intern account, and then some of the stuff that I was doing was like whatever small projects Dan basically wanted more information on. Like if he had an idea and he wanted someone to look into it, I would basically go and do that for him. And so that sometimes I was like, hey, I think there's a TWAP buyer every Thursday morning at this time. Like, can you run a regression and see if there's actually like if price is changing significantly during this time period over these months? So like informing the liquid side, this is like really early days, but like looking into coins in the top 100 that we didn't know a lot about to see if we wanted to start trading them and form a thesis. I was only an intern for maybe two or 3 months. So I was doing things like that. And then I joined full time shortly after and was on the venture side. So like as a basically just like the most junior guy on the team, figuring out the thesis on these projects, trying to help with due diligence, do research to inform investment decisions. And then, over 2.5 years, like by the end, I was doing a lot of the investment decision making, kind of leading the deals. And yeah, there's kind of a slow progression over those years, stepping into that role.
Were you at CMS towards the end of that cycle? So did you witness the FTX and everything from your position at CMS, or was that post FTX and everything?
Yeah, I was at CMS during the FTX crash. It was crazy. I mean, like CMS was, we had a lot of money on platform. We were one of the initial investors in FTX itself. So like we not only having like financial upside and the success of it, had a lot of like capital at risk with the thing going under. So it was wild to see. I like to say Dan Matuszewski's he's like the smartest common sense guy who's ever existed. And I think that helps a lot in like capital preservation, right? Basically his rules are like, don't blow up, never get liquidated. And so seeing him work while that was happening was really cool to witness. But yeah, I would, watch it very much first person over the course of those, hours, days, weeks.
Yeah. And how was your transition from? Did you go from CMS straight into Monad?
Yeah, so I initially angel invested in Monad in early 2022. There was like the first round they went out to raise. CMS was super flexible on like what you were allowed to do while you were working there. Again, as prop capital. Um, so I angeled, and then they were looking for someone to like help start. Like they basically had a team of engineers and then the founders, and like there was no one to run a Twitter or community or anything like that. And so like as an investor, I basically stepped up and started helping out on that side. And then eventually joined full time. Yeah, sorry, I'm forgetting the exact question.
I was just wondering about how the transition happened between CMS and then to Monad. So
Yeah, so it's actually kind of funny, right? I used to joke when I first joined that at CMS, I kind of had like two main roles, right? I was making venture investment decisions in startups and then shit posting on Twitter from my own account. And then when I joined Monad, my role turned into making kind of time and effort investments in ecosystem projects. So like very similar to venture, except we're just investing our own time and brand and reputation. And then also shit posting on Twitter, but just from the Monad main account. So like there was actually a lot of overlap. I think a lot of what people try to do in crypto actually is pretty similar, right? You're generally trying to grow a product or a brand or drive awareness to a narrative or get people excited about something. And I think there's like fundamentally there's just a lot of similarities in what that looks like.
On the going to Monad, I mean, I think from our perspective, Pith, we're pretty aware of the gigabrains working over there, so it kind of makes sense. But what made you think, okay, I want to invest more time with Monad, and then ultimately jumping, from CMS to Monad full time?
Yeah, so like I said, right, I saw 1,000 pitches in my time at CMS. I picked one to go all in. Right. There was like no uncertainty in Monad when I was leaving. While working at CMS, I saw firsthand the rise of Solana and kind of why that happened and what the characteristics of the chain were that enabled that. And then also like kind of the execution, person to person work that Solana was doing to ensure its success. So like Solana was my favorite blockchain. It still is my favorite blockchain. Like Solana is epic. It has some pretty bad parts, and like the main two are it's really hard to build on, and the validator, to be a validator, it's very expensive. And like Monad was basically saying, okay, we're gonna take the best parts of Solana, make it EVM compatible so you can plug into Ethereum's network effects, and make the hardware that like the hardware requirements basically could run on like any MacBook that you buy out of store at Apple, right? You can build a full node for $1,500. So it's like maintains decentralization. You get a little bonus, the fact that it has like about 10x the throughput of Solana and fully EVM compatible. And to me, it was like that's just a no-brainer. I thought it was only a matter of time until everyone else realized how big of an idea this was. And generally, like in venture investing or like your career is very similar to venture investing, but you just get way fewer bets and there's a much longer time horizon. So it's like, okay, the information that I have that I know other people will get excited about, like what's the time until everyone else gets excited and what does that do to the project? And so like I knew I was very early. I was really confident that I was right. And I'd been doing venture investing for 3 years, like love that career path. I was still like pretty young at the time. And so it just made sense to get the new experience, go all in on the bet that I was really confident in, and be a part of the story of bringing this to light in the crypto industry.
Awesome. And how long was that? About 3-4 years ago now that you've started?
Yeah, I started posting off the Monet account like end of 2022, so like in November. Coming up on 3 years. I joke now, which thank God I can joke because now I know when mainnet's launching. I'm like 3 years is my job is basically to talk about the product. Like if you boil it down, my job is to talk about Monet. 3 years is a long time to talk about a product that doesn't exist, right? Like that's a lot of days, right? We're talking about like 1,000 days of this thing not being live. So I'm very excited for it to go live soon.
You're probably more excited than any community member, pretty much.
Dude, I'm like the original community member. I like loved it so much that I joined. Like, yeah. I know I'll get DMs from, community members or investors that like, they'll be upset that it's not live yet. And I'm like, you realize you're preaching to the choir here. Like, trust me, I want this to be live. Like, probably more than you. I work on this 16 hours a day. Like, so I don't know. I think that there's a lot of cool things that unfortunately I can't talk about for the mainnet launch and mainnet rollout. But I think people will be, I think we're going to beat expectations. I think people will be very pleasantly surprised with what happens in the near future here with Monet's launch.
Has it been difficult over those 3 years not having a product to find things to talk about for Monad? You guys have an incredibly strong community and plenty of stuff going on all of the time, but without sort of something solid to point to, how have you managed that over the past 3 years?
Yeah. Yes, really hard. That's a very hard thing. Maybe like I can put it in a way where maybe some other people can kind of relate. And I was talking to a friend earlier who doesn't know anything about crypto, and I was trying to explain like the time horizon thing. It'd be like if you're with your buddies and you're waiting to get into a restaurant or a bar or something, and they're like, all right, we can see you in around 30 minutes, no promises, but that's around when you can come in and sit down. You're like, oh, sweet. Okay. And you were the one who made the plan. So everyone's like kind of betting on you. 30 minutes goes by and they're like, hey, should we check in? They're like, yeah, it should just be like another 30 minutes. And this just happens over and over. And now it's 3 hours later. And they're like, do I leave? Are we ever going to eat? Like people get restless and they get upset. And it's like kind of rightfully so. Like I fully empathize with it. And so, yeah, like if your job is to basically be selling people on this restaurant and like saying how good it is and how it's definitely worth waiting, but it's just taking like way longer. Like it's just very difficult. And so that's definitely been the largest challenge, I think, because like our timelines have changed over time. Every time we kind of have an update on what the new timeline will be, like everyone who touches the Twitter is on the public comm side of this is like, all right, like what are we going to do? Like, should we create a game? Like, what should we talk about? So, yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy for sure, but thankfully that time is actually now over, which is great.
Hence the Monad cards. Had to find a way to
There you go. A lot of creativity out of the team to keep everyone interested.
And curious, because your title, Head of Growth. I'm kind of curious to take if you can take the curtain back a bit on what does that mean. A bit on the day-to-day job. What are your key focuses? I guess going into mainnet.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a lot of jobs that exist in crypto that just like don't really exist in other industries. And so we end up getting like weird titles that like don't make sense to people's normal mental mapping. Like head of growth is just like not really a thing. Like I made it up. Like I quite literally made that title up. But so internally, like to maybe pull that back a little bit. There's a couple of divisions that are under growth, right? Marketing would be under growth. There is like ecosystem help. So like working directly with teams on their go-to-market, getting them or helping them hire people that will do their marketing, like sending our community over to their community, like basically helping to support ecosystem teams. We have special projects like the Monad cards would be a pretty clean example of that. There's comms and media, right? So we like run the pipeline and show similar to this. Another example would be, when we launched testnet, right? How are people actually going to come and use testnet? Are people going to care about this? What app should they use? Like basically designing the user experience so that everyone has a good experience with it, and then they post positively about Monad is like sentiment control and mind share are basically what growth is in charge of. So I'd say there's kind of three major divisions within Monad. You have like the engineering team, you have like ecosystem team, which is just like hands-on direct support with anyone who's building on Monad, and then you have the growth team, which is like anything public facing. Again, if I was to do the analogy for someone who is like, not really in crypto, I would, or like an easy example to explain what growth is would be like, have you heard of Monad? And they're like, yes. I'm like, okay, that was my job, is to make sure that like you've heard of Monad. And I just want as many people to know about it as possible.
I like that description. What has been the hardest part of that position in getting people to know about Monad or getting that information out there, do you think?
Yeah, there's a couple challenges. I would say one, the actual exciting thing about Monad is like very tech heavy. Like it is an extremely complex and impressive tech solution to a problem that exists for blockchains, which is already kind of this like hard to understand area for a lot of people, even people that work in the industry and trade. So it's like, all right, go to this complex industry and then take a much more complex solution that's very impressive on tech specs, and then try to get, normal people excited about it. I think that in general kind of has its own set of challenges. I think one way that we tackled this early on was basically the barbell approach, right? You see the Monad community and they're just like batshit crazy, right? Like we have people running around in full makeup, full outfits, cosplay around KBW, like dressed up as Monad characters, right? So like that increases general attention and mindshare. You don't know anything about the tech, but you do see Monad's brand. And then the hope is that if you get enough people to see that, then they'll be interested in what it is, and then they can learn on their own about why the tech is special. So kind of like inventing that form of Monad pilling people, right? Like you need to just put it in front of everyone and then let the smart people realize that this is a really good solution, and then they can kind of sing its praises. Another challenge is definitely like, if your job is to get people excited, but then we go back to that restaurant example where like, yeah, 30 minutes is fine to wait. But if you told us it was 3 hours from the beginning, we probably would have went somewhere else. It's hard. Like there's a lot of things that you can get people excited about along the way, but the really big milestone that people want is for it to be live. And so like managing expectations, dealing with the highs and lows of like waiting this long to go live has been pretty difficult. Like there's a lot of times when this job is hard, right? When we don't have a clear update, we actually don't even have a timeline that we can share, and everyone's just sitting around pinging you all the time, like when. But there are a lot of times where like this seems like the easiest job in the world, right? Like it seems like I'm trying to convince people that ice cream's good on a hot day. Like everyone wants this, and so that's just like what you're talking about. So there's a lot of swings that come with that. maintaining team morale in the lows and then making sure no one gets too high during the highs is important. Yeah, those are like a couple of the challenges that we faced along the way.
No, I see. Just Grizzly in the chat just said, "Imagine if there wasn't a Chog Molandak to talk about." And back to your first point there, just having all of those things sort of existing at the top of the funnel in order to get people more interested into the monad weeds. Something a bit interesting and weird that is going to grab people's attention seems to have worked really, really well for you guys.
Yeah, and I think there's there's also a lot of things that when we created the first iteration of like what we wanted our marketing and community flywheel to look like, it was built around like a 1-year time horizon. Like if we launch in a year, this is the right strategy. It was not a year; it was actually more than double that. And so when you plan something that's supposed to take that long and then it ends up being much longer, like you need to adapt it on the fly. And I think like one of the really cool adaptations that came out of this was so many people had gotten so excited and were like bought in on Monad, that like you almost got this social hierarchy that only existed within Monad. So you had like Monad specific KOLs, but like only within the Monad circle. Like in the Discord, they were the well-respected people. They had all the street cred. And then that kind of started to funnel towards their Twitter. And after 2 years of this, like now there's just a group of people who are like legitimate, well-known crypto Twitter accounts that are Monad specific. Like the vast majority of the people that follow them came from Monad, but now they've kind of made it to like the mainstream crypto side. And so there's almost like this like homegrown, grass-fed group of, Twitter influencers that like they cut their teeth in the Monad community, and have a ton of loyalty to that, which has been like, that was not planned, but it's an awesome consequence of, just kind of all the stuff that we've worked on over the years.
Yeah, that's something that I've followed closely from a community perspective for Pyth is trying to allow people within the Pyth community to build themselves up and give them a platform and to let them leverage our own community as much as possible in order to grow themselves. Because I think, and it shows in how Monad is doing things, that these genuine community members or genuine KOLs that you have far better reach and a lot more gravitas than a paid KOL might otherwise, purely because people can identify with it and it's authentic and it's far more appealing to the everyday person, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
And to add to that, it's the couple Frenchies that I know now, Grim Joe and King Louis, who are just both working for protocols. I can't remember exactly. Grim Joe for Purple, I think, and then King Louis for Narrative, but coming down from the community to scoring probably awesome gigs within the space they were passionate about. I mean, it's quite amazing, and I think such a strength for protocols that want to build on Drake. You're right.
Yeah, I was gonna say Drake for Grim Joe. Yeah, that's what I mean. Just to kind of double down on what you're saying there, right? I talked about one of the unforeseen consequences of community building early being like this group of passionate, loyal, like influencers who cut their teeth in Monad and they have loyalty to Monad. Another one has been like, we've had over 50 people in the community get hired directly out of the Monad community to like awesome roles in crypto. And so like people will always come and ask me, hey, everyone who cares about Monad are just pure farmers. Why the hell would they care? I don't understand. I've never seen anything like that. And since I can't pattern match it to the things that I've seen, then it has to be fake. And but there's kind of two clear answers. One is you've obviously never spent any time in the Discord, because I think you would have a very different model. Two is like, why do people spend time on crypto Twitter? Right? A lot of it is to have fun on the internet. It's entertaining. A lot of people want to grow their own social following, and like kind of gather influence over time there. And then it opens up a lot of doors and opportunities that you could get that you otherwise couldn't. And I'm like, that's just exactly what the modded community is offering people. Right? Like, if it is not very hard to get a ton of followers and gather a bunch of crypto influence, if you are like pretty talented in the modded community, now we've had over 50 people get hired out of the community to jobs. So like, if you're looking for something, if you're looking for like high paying work, which a lot of people in the world are, this is probably the best place that I know of on the internet to achieve that. Um, and so I think a lot of the same incentives exist within Mana that just like exist on general crypto Twitter. And like, that's the closest way that I can kind of describe it. But yeah, great Grimjo, King Louis, KB, Cozy, like there's so many examples of people that have done this successfully.
Yeah, I'm actually
future friends, baby.
One of those people, Kevin. I was very, very early on, became friends with Bill Mondays, and he helped me a whole bunch during the ecosystem. So I count myself as one of those 50 from a couple of years ago.
I believe the intro was from Bill Mondays for you, Chop, no?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Bill Monday is the GOAT.
Bill is a good man.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
Yes. Controversial question here, Kevin, and maybe one you can't answer. But do you have a favorite mon animal?
Yeah, I like Molendak. I think like Molendak is a special place in my heart because for a long time we were just using Purple Pepe as our mascot, and I can like get into the reasons behind that, but essentially you want a meme. Like, we were growing from zero, right? I'm basically handed a Twitter account. No one's ever heard of Monad. They're like, all right, grow this and make people care. Purple Pepe, I think, was a really good choice because there's a ton of meme formats already with Pepe, so you don't have to create them yourself. People are familiar with Mooch is inevitable. Yeah. People are familiar with Pepe. So when they see it, they already relate. They already know what to think and what this meme format is, which is important. But then Purple made it ours. So then when people would see the Purple Pepe, they would already like it because they knew Pepe. But Purple made it ours. So then we were getting brand recognition. So it was really good and powerful early on. We knew we couldn't just appropriate Pepe forever, right? Like, this is eventually you need your own mascot, and the community was very, very, very important, like from the get-go, before it even existed. We're like, this needs to exist for Mana to be successful. And so eventually the community was just like jamming, came up with Molendak, and then everyone started memeing it. We're like, this is our mascot now. Right? Like, it has to be. Think about it. It came directly out of the community. We're a community first project. What better way to recognize that and celebrate that than like having the face of the project be created by the community? And I think that moment for a lot of people within the community went from like, oh, I sit around and I'm excited for Monad to launch, so I'm just going to wait. Like, it's almost like watching a movie, to now it's interactive. You're like playing a video game, or like I can actually change what Monad is saying, what they're doing, what they're excited about by being in the community. And that just changes how people view something, right? Like, imagine if you could never post on Twitter, but you could only scroll. Like, you might be less interested, right? You still might do it every once in a while, but it's just not the same as when you can actually be a participant. And so I think this made it very clear that Monad would allow the community to like be an active agent and participant in shaping what Monad is. And that got people going. So like the Molendak was like the immaculate conception moment for me. And so when then there's all the other ones that came after, and they're epic and they have their own lore, but that's Molendak has a special place in my heart.
I like the mouche. I think it's very French to like the mouche. But I got one back onto the a bit of the ecosystem side of things. I mean, I keep seeing you guys doing amazing stuff. I think it was Founders Residency or something called around Momentum, which was announced a couple weeks ago now. And yet you also have the blue chips of DeFi coming to Monad. I think Uniswap, Aave,
Alright.
or maybe I'm Chainlink. I guess Pith will call it blue chip, just to not biased at all. And all. How excited are you to have a bit of those two? I guess maybe they're not first time builder for all, but a bit of those Monad motivated people that say, "Hey, I can build stuff here as well." And how has it been, trying to help grow those and I guess incubate? I'd say maybe is the word I probably would use from the external perspective. So how has been the experience, and how excited it is to have a full-fledged, I guess DeFi and across, blockchain environment and ecosystem flourishing day one?
Yeah, it's key. It's super important. I think that you can't, or the optimal strategy is to have a mix of both. You want blue chip players for a number of reasons, but like the main one is when people go to a new ecosystem and they see something that they're familiar with, they tend to gravitate towards that. They feel comfortable, they trust the team, they've used the product before. And if you are new, or if they're using something new, then you want them to have that feeling of familiarity, right? Like a lot of people prefer that. Um, you can't just have, existing projects, or you need your own ecosystem. There are a lot of things that were impossible before within DeFi that will now be possible with Monad. So like um by definition will be brand new and Monad native. There's a lot of teams doing similar things to the blue chips that you mentioned that are just Monad native. But yeah, I think like you basically need both of them in order to give, the chain the best shot at having a sustainable eco. Um, I'm really excited to see these Monad native teams go live on mainnet and like come into the wild and have real users and real funds flowing through them. Like Drake, for example, that you mentioned, um, Grimjo joined. Like they're working on this awesome perp stacks. And like I know the last 2 weeks have been like, oh, perp stack season. Like it kind of seems like, you know, now you're just trend following. But they've been building this for a long time. And so like because of Monad's performance, Drake will like enable brand new decentralized features that have previously been impossible with the help of Piss Oracle. And so there's a lot of really cool things that I'm excited for. So yeah, it's awesome to have the blue chips. Um, one of the perks of being EVM compatible is it's super easy to talk to like the Uniswap team, and they're like, obviously we'll deploy. Like it's basically, it's so easy. Why would we not? But having those core, teams in the ecosystem kind of getting ready for battle is really exciting. I can't wait to see what they do.
What are some of those things that were not possible anywhere else that will be possible on Monad?
Yeah, so I think Drake is a really good example. Having like a truly decentralized perp stacks is very important. Like you have, let's see, how do I say this? You have like Hyperliquid, for example, and they are amazing, right? They have fantastic product market fit. A lot of the reason that they've been successful is they are extremely performant and extremely fast. You allow market makers to be much more efficient. That's going to, it makes the market more liquid, which allows participants to come in without getting smoked. And like the architecture basically allows for the product to be good. You obviously could not build a perp stacks on Ethereum layer 1, Ethereum layer 2s, we have seen like some versions that have captured momentum for a little bit, right? You can think of GMX on Arbitrum. But it has not been sustainable, right? Like once you have a product like Hyperliquid come in, it's just going to eat its lunch because it is so much more efficient because of the performance that they can afford. So Drake coming in or Purple, allowing like a truly on-chain limit order book for perps to trade is just like never existed before. And I think that will be very exciting for a lot of folks. You have, what's another example? Kuru, which is one of the largest, if not the largest, central limit order book for spot on Monad. Yeah, Ethereum L1, right? Kind of, you could have AMMs, which was like an enormous 0-to-1 innovation. But like any other asset that's ever being traded in any other market would like laugh at the execution. Right, like X times Y equals K is a necessary evil to allow us to permissionally swap assets online. It's obviously not efficient. Like when you speed up Ethereum 1,000, and you make gas 1,000 times cheaper, all of a sudden you can actually run essential limit order book, which is how like every other market in the entire world operates. Right, it's cheap enough that market makers can actively quote prices, move spreads extremely quickly, and get efficient pricing. And so like maybe an example of how that comes into play could help to paint the picture of why this matters. If you imagine like going to an aggregator and just saying, I want to sell, some large, like $100,000 worth of Ethereum. Like I want to swap it to USDC. There are currently ways to do that in spot on Ethereum L1 and other L2s, and like it will look at routes to do that. If it is more efficient to do that swap on Monad and you introduce Monad into the routes that this aggregator can choose from, right? If 1inch plugs into Monad and Monad's a more efficient, like it's just an island and swaps happen much faster and they're much more efficient there. Like all the big orders that would get really shitty slippage, like say like 1-2% slippage and very high fees when traded elsewhere, if they get much less slippage and much lower fees while on Monad, and that offsets the bridging cost to actually route the order there, like those large orders are going to flow through Kuru or name your club on Monad. As that happens over time and large orders continue to flow through Monad, right, it is a better business to then be a market maker on Monad, which means more people will enter and spreads will tighten. So then you don't need $100,000 orders for this to make sense anymore. Now you just need $10,000 orders. And like you can see basically a place where if there's a lot of options to choose from where to route orders, and like Monad is the only place that has the architecture to sustain the closest spreads with the most liquidity, it should just eat all of the orders. And so like that, just by introducing this environment where swaps are much more efficient, like you will eat at first some of the flow and then long term very likely a lot of the flow of these swaps that people want to do on chain, just because like you can do it faster and more efficient than any other place.
And I'm not technical and don't want to get technical, but will that be possible? Like actually, like have the the Monad route pretty much on those ETH and L2s, AMMs and swap aggregators?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. That's how. Yeah, that's my technical limits of my technical knowledge right there.
Yeah. It's not as straightforward as kind of just sending it somewhere else, right? Because it is a separate ecosystem. But yeah, the long story short is like, if say you were going to lose $100 on the trade by doing it on the current routes that existed, and you'd only lose $20 on Monad, and the bridging cost associated with it was $20. In that case, it would still route to Monad because you only lose $40 of bridging plus Monad execution. So like it needs to be large enough to where the cost of bridging is offset, which is why I started by explaining large
Yeah.
orders. But yeah, absolutely.
Makes sense.
I
No,
had
and hopefully you guys bring NFTs back as well. So I mean,
I'm very excited for that. Yeah, I think at week 1 of Mainnet's going to be ridiculous on the NFT front.
how many NFT projects do you think are going to be launching week 1 of Mainnet? Had a guess.
I don't know. I think a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, we had a program that was like an accelerator for the NFT projects. And I think there were 86 teams.
Ooh.
So like a lot of teams looking at this, right? That doesn't mean that there's 86 high quality, premier JPEGs that need to be owned, right? Obviously that's not the case, but like just to give a sense of the amount of people who are like full-time dedicated to trying to make a business out of this. If you assume like the most amount of attention on Monad, at least in the near term, is around launch, a lot of people will try to launch in that first week to, take advantage of that. So the first week is going to be the Wild West. Like I think we're going to see more NFT volume on Monad than like maybe anywhere else in crypto during that time span.
Do you have a sense of launching on Mainnet at about the same time? Or on Mainnet?
Sorry, that cut out a little bit in the beginning. Can you repeat it?
Do you have a sense of how many applications Monad will be launching with come Mainnet?
Yes, we are currently. I'm not sure what I can say, can't say. I would anticipate. I would say that there will be, over 100 different unique applications with front ends launched for day 1 of Monad Mainnet.
Yeah. Okay. That's a very large number.
Right. Like it is a truly full blown ecosystem. It's all going live at the same time.
Yeah. It's very cool and very exciting. I, for the purposes of this chat, Kevin, compiled 3 of the most common FUD questions that I see for Monad on Twitter and elsewhere. And I wonder if you could give me perhaps a quick fire response to each of them, if you're willing.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yes. Okay. So 1, is Monad launching too late? Have you missed the boat in terms of just timing and the market and everything?
Yeah, I would say like I empathize with usually the people saying that are people that are upset that it is not live yet because they would like to either be trading it or they spend a lot of time waiting and they just want it to be live. I don't think market wise it matters, right? It's not like I don't think first mover advantage is like that critical in crypto. We've seen a lot of times where that just like is not the case.
Anything
Sometimes. Sorry, I missed.
So if anything, it's the opposite. Being the first mover is not ideal. Yeah.
Right. So like, yes, I would say if I could have chose, like just pressed a button and launched Monad a year ago with everything that all the features and security properties that we wanted, like, yeah, of course you'd rather it be in market. But no, I don't think it's a very large factor. Like, Ethereum's been around for 10 years. Mine will be around for, a very long time. Like give or take 6 months, it shouldn't matter too much. If anything, I'd say like the opportunity set of things that you can do now is so much larger because of like the policies and kind of like basically regulation becoming crypto friendly, that like the next 12 months matter way more than like the last 3 years did. And so I think that the opportunities ahead are just much larger than the ones in the past. So, but yeah, obviously I wish it was live. I hear where they're coming from.
Totally agree there. Okay, number 2, is 10,000 TPS already too slow given other competitors in the market?
No. Yeah, I think that's a short answer. Like,
Good.
I mean, what's Solana, in my opinion, is like definitely the most successful, like outside of Ethereum, the most successful blockchain. They do like 1,500, so like about 10x that. I'm sure that's, it's enough to do the vast majority of things that you would want to do.
And the final one, and this goes back to you talking about managing expectations within the community and the broader ecosystem. Is it impossible or possible for Monad to manage both community and VC expectations around the not necessarily the price, but the ecosystem and launch and whether or not they're going to be taken care of in that sense?
I think like, so is the question like, are there futures where Monad launches and both VCs and community are not disappointed?
Yes, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I would say for sure, like 100%, right? Like if you are actually in the community, that means you're very aware of all of the projects that are going to be launching on Monad. You're very likely early to being in those communities. You're getting special access to any of their incentive programs. Like you're already whitelisted for everything you want. The amount of opportunity for the community is just like out of control. For VCs, like we have very close relationships with them. I think the general population's understanding of like what VCs want and what they say to projects is like way different than what actually happens. Like for example, if we had a conversation with the VC 6 months ago and we're like, hey, we want to do XYZ, but it's going to take 6 months, they'd be like, obviously you should do that. Like that's definitely the right move, right? They are playing much longer games than I think most people give them credit for. And yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day too, like they took a bet on the team and on like Monad as a technology and what we're doing. I think, I don't know. We can ask them, but I'm sure with regards to what VCs are looking for, maybe I'll put it this way. I was a VC, right? I made tons of investments in this space. If I was leading deals, I'm not sitting at a VC right now pointing at Monad going, look how big of a mistake that was. I wish we did not do that, right? All this other bag of things that are all already completely worthless and the founders already left, right? Like those are better deals. So, yeah, I think like, they have much longer time horizons than most people give credit for. And so if it's like launch timing or anything along those lines, I don't,
Fair enough. You mentioned in that answer the opportunity available in the Monad ecosystem to community members and investors alike. What do you think is one of the most slept on features, apps, or what have you in the Monad ecosystem at the moment that exists?
I think something that I would be watching if I was looking for opportunity in the Monad ecosystem as like an investor, a community person, Monad Momentum, which Pepito mentioned earlier. It's essentially like Monad's, like we're going live on day one where we want there to be user acquisition incentives given out to projects from the Monad Foundation. I would pay attention to the teams that win, like are recipients of the Monad Momentum program, right? Because you already know that their user acquisition is going to be incentivized, right? Like that's, I saw a tweet yesterday that was like somebody basically making the point that, hey, when it has seemed like everyone has been in on like some trades recently, and that like the second you see anyone else in, it seems like it's not a good trade anymore. It's not a good opportunity. And he's talking about like Lighter or Hyperliquid early on or Aster. And he's like, that's the dumbest thing in the world that you could think, right? If you're on crypto Twitter using these products all the time, like you're basically never actually going to be late to something. And so I think Mono Momentum is a very easy way to be like, okay, if I want to test things out in the ecosystem early on to like see if I like the chain, see what type of applications maybe are interesting to me. Like as a user, I would just go and check out those apps, right? Why not?
Can
Fantastic.
can we actually see who's been going through wave 1 already of the momentum, or who's been, I guess, accepted, I guess, in some way?
Yes. So people have not been accepted yet. Applications, I believe, close in a couple days. And then there's like a selection process, and then the teams will be announced. We will, like, if you follow them on Twitter, you will know every single team that is a recipient of Mono Momentum. So it will be an announcement coming up in the near future. Just like, we got to go through the process, give everyone a fair chance to apply and make their case. And then, give the right amount of time and effort to making sure the best possible teams are selected.
Kevin, I'm conscious of your time. Sorry, Peter, go.
No, I'll go. I was just saying, I'm very excited about the momentum. I really liked what you guys are cooking with this, so looking forward to see how it pans out.
Two final ones for you, Kevin. One, how on earth did you manage to snag the @intern handle on Twitter?
Yeah, so like I said early on, I was CMS intern. When I was leaving to join Monad, I'm like, well, I can't be CMS intern anymore. I'm not CMS. It'd be pretty cool if I could just drop the CMS and just be intern. It'd be way cleaner. So I ended up talking to the guy who like had it. He's just like a normal business guy. He was on a reality TV show at some time in the past. And he was like, dude, I don't know. Like, you're probably the only person who's ever built any type of following around the world intern. Like, I have no use for this. Like, he already, had a bunch of money. He was very independently successful. So it was really just a nice gesture from him.
Cool. That's really cool. And yeah, very fortuitous, I guess. And final question, which we ask all of our guests at the end of the program, is if you were joining crypto today, knowing all that you know, what's one piece of advice that you would give to yourself or somebody else looking to get in?
That's a really good question. There's two. I'm gonna go from someone who's willing to work in the industry and someone who's just like a passive user. If I'm a passive user, I'm finding 2 or 3 assets that I really believe in long term, right? Maybe it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. And that's basically all I'm gonna own. So like put your assets there. On time and effort, find 2 or 3 projects that are not launched yet that you are very excited about, and get deep in the weeds in those. Because if you are excited about them and you're right, there's going to be a ton of opportunity financially, career-wise, to basically go and excel. Like the amount of times that this ultra successful, powerful person that you hear about and look up to is like, yeah, I basically was just one of the early users of this, and then I got a job and now I like run everything. Like that is a staple of crypto. So like 2 or 3 assets, spend your time there. 2 or 3 projects, spend your time there. If you're willing to work in the industry, I think that you want learn to I maybe I'll just shill kind of my path. But like if you learn to invest first, like on the venture side, you learn to identify opportunities. Like your entire job is to identify opportunities and try to see where the market's going. Like be on the buy side, be on the investment side. Once you figure out how to do that and like learn that skill set, then take the risk and go all in on something you believe in. Like learn to aim. And then once you feel like you have a good sense to aim, like don't be afraid to pull the trigger. I think that that's a pretty tried and true way to find success in the industry.
Awesome. Great advice. Thank you very much, Kevin. I love it. It's a nice little barbell you've laid out there for us on both sides. I like it.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. Very excited to be using apps powered by Pyth on Monad in the near future.
Oh yeah.
Thanks a ton, Kevin.
Awesome. See you guys.
Appreciate it, man. Bye.
Banger. Another one.
In the books. What's
And-
that? 23? 24?
We're at 23. We're at 23. This one was a close call. I was hoping Kevin would say earlier this week yes, because I was like, oh my god, if not, I'm running out of guests for this Wednesday. Made it happen, and it was a banger. Next week, I got someone as well. Next week should be a pretty Perps deck season. So I found a cool little SVM building perp decks that used to be on Solana that now is building its own thing. I'll just drop this here, and whoever does its research might find who. But might be a big-brained, centralized club, fully on chain, with low TPS and latency. So that should be a good one too.
Looking forward
It's
to it.
and
Yeah.
it's not Fogo, so or Ambient, as we already had Doug, but another one.
Well, looking forward to it. I'll be back on deck in Australia, hopefully fully refreshed and recovered after this crazy 2 weeks in Asia. But I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Any cool community meets you had, Pythians that you've run into this past 2 weeks?
I've run into a bunch actually in Korea and here in Singapore. They're all extremely excited and very kind and happy to see us out and about and with everybody. So it's been great, very rewarding for everybody involved.
We've got some very interesting comments always coming from YouTube. Are we ready to pull the rug again? I don't know. I don't know which rug we're talking about. My rug is fine under my my coffee table, and it's staying there. YouTube is quite the crowd. No, but very cool. Wait, did I have anything else? May I forgot? I don't think so. Follow the Pyth account. We're inching closer to 300K. Finally, it's been a slow ground on that account. Follow Chop, follow the Pyth Echo account, follow all the Pyth accounts, and
Follow the Pythians.
yeah, follow
Some
all the
Pythians
Pythians you see.
Insane content at the moment. Actually, we should mention quickly, very, very quickly, the second half of the council's 6-month term is coming up, and the budget request has been approved, and we have a whole bunch of funding at the moment for content creators and community members alike. So if you've got ideas or want to do things within the Pyth community or externally that you think will add to what Pyth is able to do in communities or elsewhere, perhaps you want to do some Monad X Pyth content in the lead up to Monad Mainnet and everything, you want to highlight some awesome Monad ecosystem applications that are using Pyth, jump in the Pyth Discord, get on the governance forum. We have the means and are very willing to fund content creators looking to create great content across the entire Pyth ecosystem, which is, as everybody knows, gigantic. So if you're looking for work, if you want to create your own job, we're here for you. It's all available to you. You've just got to be the one to take the step.
And a headphone, yeah. If you're not following the accounts, I congratulate you for being here today and knowing what Pyth is about. But I'm pretty sure you follow all of us. But no, bunch of cool stuff coming with I guess Monad Mainnet. We still don't know when. Do you have a guess?
I've heard whispers, but that's all it ever is, whispers. They're extremely good at keeping a very tight ship. Sorry, Puppeteer, I will smile more.
Or spreading enough fake, fake rumors to say this is happening then, this is happening then. But that should be fun. I think it's coming. I don't know. I don't want to be here to be making predictions. I'm bad. Is there a prediction market to know to bet on if Monad is live before this or that? I'm not sure.
I've seen a couple actually.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll go put where. Maybe I'll go put. Yeah. No, cool. Chop. Let's close it up, Pythians. Thanks a lot for coming again. We'll see you next week. And Chop, enjoy the rest of the week in Singapore and safe trip back.
Well, thank you, Pepito. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.